Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Lisa Kinski.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm joined by my co-host Rob Stanley, and we have a fabulous guest for you guys today. We have Getida with us coming from Me Brand, and we're going to be talking about branding mistakes that Amazon sellers need to avoid. So let's bring her on stage with us. Kitty, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show, and it's so good to see you again, Rob. And yeah, it's lovely to be here to talk about branding.
Amazing.
Always
so
good
excited to have you here. Yes. So let's just get straight to it. What is the number one thing that brand owners are getting wrong?
Yeah, so I see this happening a lot, but a lot of brand owners are getting wrong the inconsistency. So they're not being inconsistent with that, with their branding. And literally, if you don't follow a particular way of doing things with your brand, if you're not consistent on your social media, on the way you talk, on your marketing campaigns and the way you talk to your audience, then everything is confused. Your message and your brand message and the values are completely confused, and that can really damage your brand. And also, owners are always also misunderstanding branding. So a lot of owners think a logo is the branding and that's all you need, and some colorways. And that is, I think that's where a lot of brand owners are getting it wrong. And so that's where you need to sort of establish brand guidelines to sort of have something to follow for your branding.
Yeah, and distribute those across the entire organization. That, even just as a consumer, gives me a lot of doubt and a lot of pause if I'm buying from a brand where their logo or even the presentation of their name is different in one place versus another. If it's, all caps in one place and then a mixed case, or sometimes it's two words, sometimes it's one. I mean, that gives me pause as a consumer. That really hurts their reputation, right? I mean, it's all about your presentation on the marketplace.
I see it happening a lot on the email. It's a completely different font, and then on the Instagram it's a completely different font, and nothing's consistent. So this is why a brand guideline is so important for brand owners. And a lot of people don't know what a brand guideline is. I think a lot of owners are familiar with the design guidelines. So you'll have your logo, your secondary logo, your primary logo, your colors, and your fonts. And that's generally what most owners have. But when we talk about the brand guidelines, we're talking like a brand Bible. So this is going to sort of set the path for your branding. So it'll have your brand personality in it, your target audience, your brand colors, the fonts, the typography, and your general values as well, and including the mission and vision that you have for your branding. And the way you use the brand guideline would be if you were expanding a team or outsourcing to a VA or a marketing team. They won't be familiar with what your brand is and who your brand are. So if you hand over a brand guideline or a brand Bible, then they'll understand, okay, this is your target audience, these are your colors, this is how we use the logo. We can't use it on this particular, on these colors. We cannot use it on this particular style or lay it on top of images. There's so many things you can build with a brand guideline. I mean, I did work for a bank, actually, HSBC in UK, and they had huge brand Bibles. And, working for a bank, you can sort of think, internationally as well, where the fonts go, how it's laid out, how you speak to your customers. And it flows through, and there's consistency from everything they do, from the actual bank itself to the literature they print out to everything online. So you've got to think about that as a brand owner. How do you want to be perceived, and what's your value to your customers? So having a brand guideline really helps you set that process off.
Yeah, I like that you called it the Bible, because you can even have like the 10 commandments of thou shalt not use this logo over this color. Thou shalt not invert things. I like that it's what to use, when to use it, how to speak, and also what to avoid. That's really all encompassing. Is there any like recommendation of how this should be built out and like really who should take ownership of building it? You would think it would be marketing, but what players in an organization need to be included in the brand guidelines?
In the brand guidelines, so yes, it would be a brand expert like myself, actually. You know, if you're building a brand, you start from scratch. So it's putting all those elements from the very beginning. So if you're a brand owner and you want to do a lot yourself, but you can do that yourself, you'll know who your target audience is. Put it in the brand Bible. You know what your colorways are. You might be working with a designer or a graphic designer with your colorways, and set those as your brand, your logo, and what you're using throughout the whole, on the website, on your packaging, on your graphics in general. Put that in the Bible. Then there's the fonts that you use. Again, you're probably working with a designer, so put that in the Bible. And then, you know, your values, your personality, your tone of voice. How do you speak to your customers? Now, I've worked with copywriters before, and they gave me a little secret manual, how you speak to your customers. And there's different tonations, how you speak to your customers. So for example, if you're a really playful brand, you might say on an email or on Instagram or a message, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Rather than, hello, how are you doing? You know, and there's a bit different, you know, it's a bit more playful. So you'll have the playful voice and you'll be very friendly. Whereas if you're a very serious luxury brand, you have a different tonation on how you introduce yourself, how you speak to your customers. And that way of speaking is the tone of voice for your brand. And that should be used across everything you do, from your marketing, from your emails, from your social media. And that should be in the brand Bible. And that's really key, because if someone's taking over your social media accounts for you, then they should know how to speak to the audience in a particular way. Or it could, you know, otherwise you're hiring a copywriter one day and you're hiring someone to do something else. But everyone has their own way of writing and talking to people. So if you don't set that in your brand guidelines, it will be inconsistent. And that's where it comes again to inconsistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I wish Kitty was around when I was doing my rebrands back in the day. So
I want to do an exercise where we just give brands and messaging to Kitty and go tear it apart. What's wrong? Because that sounds like fun.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I can do that easily. Bring it on.
There's definitely, you know, I remember doing some rebrands, and I mean, the tools available now are so different than back in, you know, let's call it mid 2000s or even late 2000s. And I remember, you know, for me, I kind of was very inspired when I did the rebrand as far as the coloring and things by Dell is who I kind of used, like their blue and everything, or a type of blue. Our rebrand was a little different because we were actually too much based on a actual item as far as our brand name, and we were shifting to a more generic type name that would encompass a lot more. Anyways, the point being though, Kitty, that, you know, when people are looking at maybe doing or designing, let's say, their own logo or their own brand, or coming up with these packages, like how much inspiration should they take from these other companies that they see they're either possibly in the same space as them, or they just admire them? And what could be the either positives or negatives of that?
Yeah, so I welcome research. Do market research, do your background research, and see who your competitors are. It's very well looking at all these other brands that do the same thing, but do they have the same target audience as you? Because they might be talking to an older audience to your brand, or, you know, so it's I would still look at what is out there and maybe put a Venn diagram or something to say, this is a luxury brands and these are the lower end, and do, you know, who are your actual competitors? I kind of look at three usually. I'll put a whole array of competitors on a page and see, you know, who I actually gravitate to and what are they doing well with their brand as well. So I don't mind going onto Pinterest, and I welcome brand owners to do that. Go to Pinterest. Pinterest is very visual. If you don't know what Pinterest is, it's like, you know, obviously a lot of visual boards and images, and obviously brands are on there, you know, with imaging. And I go there for a lot of packaging inspiration and think, oh, I like that. I'm going to put that onto a board. I like that. I like that colorway. I like the way that packaging opens. And it's collating all these things and putting it in one space. So I definitely think, you know, if you're looking at creating a new brand, look at what other brands are doing well, and then just dissect, cherry pick the things you like, you know, and then go to an expert or start sort of looking at and drafting out what you think would work what would work well for your brand.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Kitty, just a quick follow-up though. What about like when you are looking at fonts and logos and kind of the whole package itself, and you come up with like 2 or 3 of them or 4 or 5 of them, whatever it is. Have you ever looked at using some of these services that either can kind of help people understand, is this brand meet what they're trying to do based off like a polling type thing? You've seen probably some of those crowdsourcing ones. What's your kind of opinion on using some of those? If either do you use that, or should somebody maybe use that if they're doing it themselves?
Yeah, so I would say use that. I know a lot of my clients have used PickFu. I say just go if you're not sure on the which direction to go with on this packaging or this logo or the color. Go on PickFu, because you can really select
Absolutely.
the target audience you are going to be selling to. So I would definitely say do that, because that is part of the market research. You get that wrong, you've wasted your opportunity to get it right. So do all your due diligence and get definitely feedback for what you're going to create for your brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when you're talking about like gathering, like definitely do the research, see what resonates with your audience, see what other brands in your space are doing well. Is there any risk though? And I imagine that there is, for these sellers doing a rebrand to accidentally like copy another brand. The space would become diluted, I would assume. If everybody's kind of looking at everybody to do what they like, they're all going to begin to look like sibling companies, and you don't want that. I mean, what tip would you give for taking inspiration but also differentiating?
Yeah, I mean, I see that a lot. I see a lot. Oh, I've seen that before. And if you're going to sites like Canva, design your own logo, or other Wix, they have logo packages or sorts of things that they already have done for you. It's already designed. You just put your name in it, and that's, so you're going to look very similar to another brand. And obviously there are ways of doing that. I mean, I would definitely go to a designer to create your logo. I wouldn't use those services. Budget or not, you can still find affordable ways of getting an original logo designed. I wouldn't go and get a templated type logo. So it's really risky of doing that, and especially if the owner wants to design themselves, because if you're rebranding yourself, you could do it poorly, and that could be sort of really damaging to your brand. So I wouldn't advise, unless you're a designer, then I would design it, but I would get a professional to do that for you.
Yeah, leave it to the professionals.
Yeah.
You guys, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor. But when we come back, I want to touch more on what you just mentioned about the budget when it comes to branding and rebranding. So we'll be back in just a second.
Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics.
All right, you guys, be sure to head over to Getida.com/Sellernomics for that first 400 in FBA reimbursements free. We are back with Kitty Lai with Me Brand, talking about branding mistakes that sellers need to avoid, specifically talking about rebranding right now. And you had mentioned briefly before the break, budget. Even if you're kind of on a constrained budget, please don't use one of the templated logo generation services, or try to do it yourself if you're not a designer. When a brand is talking about rebranding or even building out the brand at the beginning, I mean, how much should they be investing in these assets of the logo, creation of their color, the guidelines, the brand voice? I mean, those things in theory don't cost money, but for the research it can. So how much should they be investing?
I mean, are you taking your brand seriously? Are you taking your business seriously? I mean, come on, if you want to design it yourself, I mean, everyone can do that, but that's not a business. Unless you're, like I said, you're a designer and you actually have the skills to do that, I think you definitely need to account for the budget and actually lay down a budget. Let's use this for the logo, because that is important. That's the main thing that the customer's going to remember for your brand. You get it wrong, and no one's going to be buying from you, because it's like, oh, why do they use that color, and why have they put this? And a lot of owners I see overthink the logo designs, and they over design. So there's fonts, and then there's some graphic, and then there's another color, and there's this. And I work with a lot of brand owners, and when I see their existing logos, like, oh, you probably designed that yourself, yeah, and the fonts don't match, and then they want to sort of rescue what they currently have, but they've got a load of product with that branding on there, so then I have to kind of unpick everything and tweak it and simplify it, because a logo design just needs to be simple. you don't need to over design it. So you could probably get away with a really nice font, you know, if you wanted to design it yourself, and that could be the budget way, but it really depends on your particular brand as well. So definitely set aside budget to get designs created for you.
And
Yeah,
it needs to
absolutely.
be legible. I just saw an advert for a show we're going to with various brand names on it, and a few were almost illegible. I'm like, how is this successful? Like, what is happening? Like, folks need to be able to read your brand. Feels like something that shouldn't have to be spelled out, but
and the fact is sometimes when you get a logo design, you need to think about when it's shrunk down. I mean, this is on the brand guidelines I usually put. It's like there's a minimum tolerance where your logo should be, and if your logo's got flowers and things that you can't really see it on a product, sometimes you might want to emboss your logo onto some substrate leathers or metals or etched in, and the logo needs to be really simple and refined, really. And if you've got a really fussy logo, then you're going to struggle with a lot of things. So I'd keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I was thinking about is branding on packaging. So I was lucky enough to be on a cool online seller cruise with Kitty, and she had these really cool examples of what to do and what not to do when it came to packaging. And I'll mention one after you answer this question, because, just kind of how important is it to make sure that your packaging sort of has this unforgettable design on it? And is there any cases maybe where you don't necessarily need to have it if you're depending on what you're selling? What's your thoughts on that, Kitty?
Well, the packaging, I mean, that's the first thing other than your logo and the colors. The packaging is the selling point for your product. People want to see the packaging, and that creates the brand experience for a customer. So I think it's really important to get a good design made. I understand obviously some brand owners will be on budget. It could be just a craft brown box, but you can still make that look really great by the designs, the inks that you use, and it's creating a brand voice on your actual packaging. So I would definitely sort of try to link it and create some sort of character into the actual brand itself on the packaging. So I don't know if that was clear enough.
No, that's perfect. Absolutely. I would love for you to give the example. And the one I keep thinking of when I saw you in the presentation you gave was, I think it was toilet paper in the outside of the box. And explain to everybody a little bit what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So this toilet brand is called, it's Who Gives a Crap. That is the brand name. Who Gives a Crap.
I use it. I love it.
You do. Yeah.
Yep.
So, they have eco bamboo toilet rolls as well as just the eco paper, but they're each toilet roll is individually wrapped with beautiful printed designs on their patterns, and it just looks lovely. And it comes in box of 48, or quite a big box, enough for a year's worth. I think it's a subscription as well, I believe, or a one-off.
It is. Yeah. Even the cardboard box that they send it in has complimentary designs, and it's black and white. It's recyclable paper that it's wrapped in. It has the recyclable tube. It doesn't have all of the stickiness on the tube. And even they make some of them that are in gold, and it says like, this is your emergency roll warning to order another box. Like, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And the outer box, they've put the whole branding. It's just a brown carton box, but their whole branding and tone, that brand tone is around the actual box. They obviously donate to charity as well. They tell you to turn the box into a spaceship, for kids. It tells you there's other, it has an afterlife. It's not just a box, so you can put your whole personality of your brand on a box, as boring as a brown box can be.
Yeah, I opened it up one time, and the inner flap was like, show this to your cat or something, because cats love empty boxes.
Yes.
It's a really fun brand. I love that. But I mean, you make a good point too, because I think, at least in my mind, when you think of packaging, I immediately go to like the store shelf, off Amazon, because on Amazon, it's all about the product photography and the quality of the item. And I think when people think about packaging, they think about the action figure that comes in the box that you open it up for your kids on Christmas, and it's like 90% box and elastics to keep the toy in there, and then 10% toy. And that's just a nightmare for inventory purposes on Amazon. But like you said, you can do a lot with a little bit of real estate. You just have to be intentional about it. Make the most of your space.
Absolutely. It's being smart about packaging, and there's other ways you can do it. I mean, I always talk about sustainable and eco ways of creating packaging, and get rid of the plastics, get rid of those little, the salmon packs and stuff. And the way, there's so many ways of repackaging a product that you don't need to be so fussy with the plastics. I mean, that, I think there's lots more to come in the future when it comes to sustainable packaging. So I think, Amazon, brand owners need to be aware of that as well, because the consumers are really savvy when it comes to the environment now. So, it's something that, people need to be aware of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Kitty, when it comes to like the rebrand, either the pre-rebranding or the post-rebranding, how important is it to kind of maybe reach out or utilize some of your social media for either a post or a pre-rebrand type situation?
Yeah, so post or rebrand, I definitely, definitely use social media as a tool to talk to your audience, because if you're rebranding and you've got regular customers that love your brand already, and all of a sudden it changes, and it's like, what's happened? We weren't told, and there might be things from the original packaging or the branding that they really loved, and it probably didn't even need changing, and it's just the brand owner thinking, getting itchy feet. Oh well, I think I need to change the color, and that sometimes happens. It's like, well, some owners can't leave it alone, but I would say it can be damaging if you get it wrong as well. So I would talk to your maybe even do a focus group. We're thinking of rebranding, even get the branding ready, and again, almost like PickFu, let's sort of get a poll and see actually what do you think of this new branding, and there are probably reasons why you want to rebrand. Maybe the existing branding just wasn't working, your sales have decreased, and it just maybe was a bit dated. So you need to sort of consider that if you are rebranding, and that's absolutely fine. But I would probably get some research done as well and ask the focus groups to see if it works. And social media, going back to your question, definitely that is the main source. And if you don't have social media currently for your brand, I think you're missing a trick. Social media definitely helps your customer build trust as well, and they want to know what's going on, they want to see the new products, and they want to see behind the scenes. So if you don't have anything to do on social media for your brand, I think you might be losing sales, because people do like to see a lot of visuals and being on social media, and they will trust a brand more when they have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, or an Instagram account. So I would definitely do that.
Yeah. Definitely like Instagram and like you said, Twitter and like TikTok. And if you're not using social, like my opinion and my perspective is, if you're not already using it and you do a rebrand, use influencers to launch that rebrand. And so they can talk about the new sleek packaging, and they just rebranded, and look how gorgeous these colors are, and this is their mission and things like that. It may be too early to have formed an opinion on it, but since we're talking about social, do you have an opinion on Threads yet, the new Instagram rival to Twitter?
Oh my goodness. Well, someone was talking Threads 2 weeks ago, and thought, and I downloaded it straight away, and then I looked at it, and it's linked to my Instagram, and I thought, oh no, I don't tweet. I've never tweeted. I hated Twitter. And it's like, the thing is, it's another social channel to get used to and to do. I mean, I joined Clubhouse, and that didn't go very well either. For me, I don't like tweeting, and it's very similar to, from what I've seen. But I like Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn. That's enough for me. I have other brands as well, so I can't be everywhere. I have a VA that helps me, but if you're not comfortable with a particular social channel, don't do it. Just stick with one if you have to. But Threads, I haven't physically done anything. It's all set up, but no, I was like, I've switched off like that.
Yeah.
How about you?
I tried to go download it, but I had just purged the socials from my phone as like a an exercise for mental health. And then I was like, oh, Threads, I'll check it out. I'll see if we can support the Getida brand on Threads. And then it wanted my Instagram. I was like, nah, I'm out. Like, I can't. I'm not gonna re-suck myself into something, because they're tied together. But it's a good point, like you just said, you can't be everywhere, and that's a good practice too. Is yes, utilize the social media, but every social channel has its own voice and its own style. Like what works on Instagram isn't certainly does not work on LinkedIn, and what works on LinkedIn is going to bomb on TikTok. So they all have to be catered to different audiences and what's maybe not organic to the platform, but what's native to the platform and what makes sense for it. So like pick one, get super good at it. And if you have time, expand, but also go where your audience is, right? Like you said.
That's it. I mean, Instagram's an easy choice because it's very visual. And if you've got product, that's a great way to show, or TikTok as well, but that's more video. But I think Instagram's great because it's also linked to Facebook and you can just stream, so when you post it will go into Facebook as well. So there's two channels, but again, it's the management of it. So whether you have a team to help you manage, and it's getting that tone of voice as well, correct on your Instagram account as well. But yeah, I would just get familiar with one if you can, because you're going to be busy, making sales and working other things for your brand. So, don't get sucked in with too many social channels.
Right.
Absolutely. And Kitty, just kind of a quick tip for some of the people that are possibly looking to rebrand as far as coloring. Is there any colors people should maybe be avoiding that are kind of have a negative impact, or maybe other parts of the world see those colors as negative? What have you seen when it comes to that? Maybe a few tips for everybody.
Yeah, so it does, color does matter on what your product is as well. So, and again, like you mentioned, in different parts of the world. So I would say, obviously in Asia, red is a great color. Everyone loves red, it's lucky and stuff, but you start using white or black, it's not so good. But, white and black are good in some other countries as well. So you have to really consider who you're targeting, and the actual product itself. So, for example, if you've got a baby brand, you might want to stick to the muted tones, the grays, and maybe some, really fun pastels as well. There's no saying that you can't use bright neons, if you really want to stand out as a brand for a baby brand. But yeah, I think there's no particular colors, but the less popular colors are sort of greens and browns, and yellows and oranges, depending on what the product is or the service is as well. So I have seen a survey like colors that men prefer and what women prefer, and they're very different as well. And I know a lot of men don't like brown or certain tones of green. They're not popular choices. But there is color psychology, which there's a lot behind certain colors. Like blue depicts trust. Yellow is actually quite vibrant and energetic, just like red as well. And a lot of food brands use red and yellow, like you can probably think of McDonald's or something, a lot of fast food brands use red a lot. But, and a lot of more sort of electronical companies use blue, because there's that trust that you build into it. So there is a psychology behind color. So if you are looking to design your logo, look into that properly as well. So, don't just think, oh, purple's my favorite color, but it's, what is your brand? Walking sticks, but it's like, I don't know, but
it's funny that you say, there's colors that statistically women prefer that men don't, and vice versa. Because you see a lot of these brands, especially with personal care products, like a lotion brand, for example, they're usually coloring is white, and it's like, well, we need a men's one, make it black. There are so many brands where it's just like, make it black and the men will buy it, and it's so visually easy for them to just grab the black bottle and run out of the store. What about other kind of regulations and legislations that have been passed globally that brand owners should be aware of? I'm thinking specifically about the ADA here in the States, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And when you create your brand, there's supposed to be certain colors that you avoid and certain size fonts so people can read things. I mean, is there legislation like that globally for like websites and product, or is that unique to the US? I would hope not, but I'm just naive.
I think different countries have different regulations for packaging, for food packaging actually, and in terms of where you put the product information on a label, there are stipulations that you have to have it, especially in the US as well. But when it comes to like their minimum font size is generally 6 points. I don't know if you know what the points are, but there's a particular size that you cannot go a minimum on certain packaging. And I know some brands go way beyond that, like 4 point. It's like, I can't even read it. And so, there are, I don't think there's any regulation as such. I'm not familiar with the US ADA kind of regulation. So, but I would say, you know, there, as a designer, there's a set rule for me that you can't go down to a certain size, and it creates problems when you start printing as well, because the actual fonts or the letters start bleeding into each other. So it's really hard to start reading letters that are that small. So
yeah, if I need a magnifying glass to read the instructions on or the ingredients on your product, it's too small.
Yeah, I actually have a product here, and I cannot read it. The label, I cannot read it. But it's a great product, but the branding's bad. But you know, it's like, I'm not that age yet. You know, it is down to that 4 point, and the printing is really bad. So you have to be aware of that.
So if you have a product targeting older people, you might want to make the font a little bigger.
Yeah, send it out with the magnifying glass so you can do that.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That's
All right, you guys, we're going to hear another quick message from our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to learn more about Kitty and her company, Me Brand. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics.
Grab that free $400 in FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Kitty, thank you so much for being here. You're obviously an expert in your space. I've absolutely loved this chat with you, but we need to let folks know where they can chat with you as well and work with you and learn more. So tell us more about Me Brand and where they can get in touch.
So Me Brand is a branding and design agency. I specialize in branding, logos, packaging as well, and consulting with a lot of brand owners on their actual brands. mebranddesign.com is the website, and my email is kitty@mebranddesign.com. So you can actually email me, and actually we can have a chat about your design needs and packaging and brand guidelines if you don't have any. So there's lots of things that I cover on the website, so you'll be able to see that.
Incredible. And for our audio listeners, the website is, as it sounds, mebranddesign.com, and Kitty's email is KITTY, kitty@mebranddesign.com. Kitty, anything else that the sellers need to know before we hop off today?
I would just say brand owners need to plan for their future. I think they need to set some goals for their brand as well. So it's all very well, just let's create a brand, let's sell it. But it's like, have you set any goals in where you're taking your brand as well? So if you've not thought about where you're taking the brand, are you expanding, or you just, or is it just one or two products that you need to take your business quite seriously as well, I would say. So that was all I would say.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And we got to give Kitty a chance. Kitty has her own fashion line, by the way, which we did not mention. Kitty, I want to get you a second plug. Please tell everybody a little bit about your fashion line that my wife has a couple pieces of.
She does, yes, she does. So Kit London, it's a sustainable fashion brand. It's a small capsule range actually for men's and women's, and some accessories as well. So I'm wearing some jewelry, but not all of it. We have eco-sustainable sunglasses as well, and they are produced with recycled steel. They're plant-based petroleum for the lenses, acetate lenses. Everything on those sunglasses are created by just 2 factories in the world that produce them like this way. And they are amazing. But, we donate 1% to the planet as well. So we give back to charity for every piece of garment that you purchase as well. But
Let's plug the website. Tell everybody the exact URL for the website.
It's KIT-London.com.
Perfect.
Amazing. Perfect. And it looks like you guys have some really cute stuff on here. I've got to pull it up on.
All right.
Lisa's going to be shopping after.
I'll be shopping.
Awesome.
Kitty, thank you so much for being here. This has been an absolutely incredible episode. I would be happy to have you on each week and do a deep dive of a brand, honestly. Like, this has been so amazing. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here as well today. It's been really great, and I love talking about branding. So anytime if you want to have me on the show.
We will take you up on that. And thank you for everybody who tuned in today. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the show, share your thoughts in the comments, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.